coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I am your host, as always, guys, Coach Steve here. We are back on a special Thursday edition of the Fantasy Coaches here, talking about the rest of the NFL draft. If you haven't already, the second part of our episode here and wide receivers and tight ends. Of course, Coach Tyler is here tonight on his vacation, happily coming on to join me for today's show. Coach Tyler, what's going on, man?
So this is my favorite part of fantasy, receivers and tight ends. So let's get into it.
Absolutely. Coach Steve will be back with us. Our other Coach Steve will be back with us on Monday. I couldn't get a Thursday show from him, but that's okay. He will be back on the show on Monday. So we're going to get right into it. We're not going to waste any of your guys' time tonight here. And starting off the bat here, we're going to start with wide receivers because wide receivers are a lot more fun. In the first three picks, so the big three that was going around the draft was Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Nabers, and Roman Dunze. They all went in the top 10 as projected. Obviously, Marvin Harrison went to 104 to the Cardinals. Malik Nabers went to the 106 to the Giants. And 109 went to the Chicago. Roman Dunze went to 109 to the Chicago Bears. So we'll start with Marvin Harrison real quick here. It's pretty obvious here, Tyler. Good landing spot. Is he pretty much can argue him as the 101 in most Superflex leagues right now?
Yeah, obviously, depending on what your team looks like, definitely in the 101 and one quarterbacks. He lands in a great spot. Kyler Murray, if he can stay healthy, is not a bad quarterback. And Arizona, we talked about on Monday, they have James Conner. They just drafted Trey Benson, so they're kind of beefing up that run game. But outside of really Trey McBride and maybe, deep dynasty darling Michael Wilson, there's not too much sitting there in the passing game. And so I think that, Marvin Harrison, when we talked about receivers pre-draft, I talked about sort of polish versus potential. And a lot of people see him as, the most NFL-ready receiver as a prospect that we've seen, at least since Jamar Chase, if not further back. I think it's a great landing spot. These three went, I wished Malik Nabers would have gone a pick earlier, but these three went just about where they were mocked. No real trades or changes in the way that things went. So I feel like it was pretty straightforward. But Marvin Harrison, he's my 101. I think he's going to be dominant, and we've seen how dominant rookie receivers have been able to come into the league and start. And so I think that he will continue that trend easily.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel pretty similar about Marvin Harrison here. He's going to be someone that comes in and easily automatically takes 120, 140 targets out of an offense here. We've seen when Kyle Murray has a good wide receiver that he is a better quarterback, and Marvin Harrison will make him better, which give Marvin Harrison more opportunities to actually do something with the ball as a rookie on the field. And again, he's really hasn't fallen past the 102. There's just been one draft I've seen so far where he's fallen the 103, which was wild. But basically, if you want Marvin Harrison, you have to trade up in your rookie drafts to get him at the 101, 102 range, because that is where he's going, and that's where he deserves to go right now. He's a beast of a wide receiver, and he's going to be great at the NFL level. Going over to Malik Nabers here, obviously we know the Giants situation isn't as great. Quarterback situation's a mess, but again, similar to Marvin Harrison, the target opportunity is there. Coach Tyler, do you still really like Malik Nabers?
I like Malik Nabers. I was actually talking with Coach Steve before we start our show on Monday, and throughout the beginning process of the show, I was working a deal where I had the 102 along with the 101 and a couple other firsts in a dynasty league that's a one quarterback. And so consensus was obviously Marvin Harrison, Malik Nabers with those top two. And they say talent over situation, talent over landing spot. But I just kind of look at how we've been viewing Drake London over the past couple years. He's this uber talented physical receiver who went to Atlanta, and everyone was all giddy about Drake London. And they were like, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. He's big enough. He's going to be able to be fine in the league. And he's produced a little bit, but he hasn't lived up to that expectation. And my fear is that Malik Neighbors could fall into that bucket, not because of his own situation in terms of who he is as an athlete. This guy is a freak on film. Like, he does everything that you would want to see a receiver do. He's fast. He's a great route runner. He has probably the best yak ability in this draft class in receiver. But the Giants not really having a ton as an offense as a whole, right? I'm a big Saquon Barkley fan. I have him on a lot of my teams. And the relief that I had with Saquon Barkley leaving the Giants was just this weight off my shoulders. And so I'm not someone that wants to jump into that Malik Neighbors situation and go live through that again, right? And we'll see. There was all the rumors and talks of the Giants moving up for a quarterback like Drake May, trying to make moves at quarterback because they haven't loved what Daniel Jones did. I think Malik Neighbors has the potential of these three guys to have the most receptions coming out of his first year. I don't know how valuable these receptions will be as compared to like a Marvin Harrison Jr. The talent is there to where you can't let him fall too far in your drafts. He's still my second receiver off the board, but he's not a guy that I'm loving taking as much as I did the idea of pre-draft.
That's fair. I can respect that. And I still like his opportunity. I'm going to have talent and opportunity outweigh overall landing spot. Personally, that's how I feel about Malik Neighbors still. I loved him coming out of the draft. I thought he was one of the close to almost perfect prospects outside of obviously Marvin Harrison this past season here. And whether or not no one likes Daniel Jones or does like Daniel Jones, he's going to be on the field, and he's a different type of wide receiver than they've been dealing with a lot of these slot guys. He's going to probably play out of the outside here, and he's going to see probably about 100 plus targets this season here. I don't see how he doesn't. And again, I like him obviously a little bit more long-term. This year is a little sketchy, but long-term as a top 4 pick in rookie drafts right now, you have to be happy getting a guy who hopefully in 2025, the Giants will make a big change at quarterback, allowing him to be able to fully break out in maybe year 2. But he should be in for a pretty solid season here. Again, Malik Neighbors doesn't fall past the 104. He goes at the 103, goes at the 104. That's exactly where Malik Neighbors goes in most drafts right now. So if you want a guy like Malik Neighbors, you're going to have to make sure you get in that top 4. And then the last but not least, Rome Odunze lands with the Chicago Bears here. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on over there. They have a lot of wide receivers and Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. And then obviously, Caleb Williams just went there, obviously. So he's going to be paired up with Caleb Williams for at least the next 4 to 5 years on his rookie contracts together. And we'll see what happens there. But Coach Tyler, do you like Rome Odunze? But is he potentially maybe more of a longer term asset than this year?
Yeah, definitely. I love Rome. I love the landing spot. I talk about being a Texans fan, and I think back with what Rome and Caleb, what it's come to fruition in the past couple of weeks as we've seen, it's reminded me a lot of what CJ Stroud and Tank Dell were coming out of that draft, right? They were doing throw-in sessions together. They were on the same flight. They basically knew that they were going to be on the same team and be teammates. And there is something to be said about rookie chemistry between a starting quarterback and a starting receiver that's really hard to beat. And you look at it, it's going to be more of a long-term situation before he's all that he can be. But if he's obviously surrounded by great talent, but Keenan Allen's on a 1-year deal. I think DJ Moore has 2 years left on his deal. So there's a potential that if you are holding on to Rome Odunze, which I think he's still going to be productive. I don't think he's going to be, a wide receiver 1 in that offense until later down the line. But I think he's going to be a good flex play. And you wait 2-ish years, Caleb Williams matures and becomes exactly who everyone thinks he's going to be. And you have his number 1 target who he's grown this chemistry with and befriended and worked with all this time. I think that's almost an invaluable piece to have because there's so much more outside of the game of football that comes into play there. So Rome is one of my, there's been thoughts in my head of possibly taking Rome over Neighbors just for the long-term aspect. Again, it depends what your team is set up like. It depends if you're in a win-now situation, if you have those years you're in a deep rebuild to wait. But I love Rome, love the landing spot. It obviously isn't going to be a great first year in terms of production. I think all of the like DraftKings and FanDuel had his line immediately set at like 750 yards, which is a very good rookie year.
Yeah.
But, we're not going to pull 1K out of Rome in the first year playing alongside a 1,000-yard receiver in Keenan Allen and a 1,000-yard receiver in DJ Moore, and then whatever Cole Kmet puts up. But he's a great long-term valuable asset. If you're in a deep rebuild, he's a guy that I would love to hold on to. He's going receiver 3 off the board, kind of mixed in within that quarterback run. But I love Rome, and I love what he can be for your dynasty teams.
Yeah, Rome didn't really change for me overall. I had a pretty good assumption that he was going to end up being a Chicago Bear, and of course, ends up being a Chicago Bear here. Again, this season, it's kind of like a JSN kind of situation where like there's talent there, but there's also talent ahead of him, unfortunately. And unless something happens to Keenan Allen or something, Rome Odunze is probably going to be a JSN kind of treatment where you're wanting more from him. You're just not going to get it in his rookie season as much as we want. 2025, hopefully that changes a little bit. Keenan Allen's contract ends after this year. Rome Odunze will jump into the starting role more full time, but should be grabbing him in draft. You should absolutely be grabbing him in drafts right now. He's going off as the 5th guy off the board right now. It's pretty obviously it's the top 4, the 2 quarterbacks, 2 wide receivers, and then Rome Odunze is the next guy off the board here. And if you're the 5-6 pick, you should be pretty happy getting Rome Odunze because he's going to have certain games this year where he'll have opportunities and actually produce for us. But then long term, he's going to be a top tier wide receiver that you're going to love to have in fantasy football. So again, the landing spot makes sense. He's going to be tied to Caleb Williams for the next 4 or 5 years. It's great. It's a great pick for the Bears to get another wide receiver because instead of waiting for these old guys to fizzle out, you go get yourself a wide receiver 1 now while you can. All right, over to the rest of the round 1 quarterbacks. Rest of round 1 wide receivers here. Brian Thomas goes 23rd to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Xavier Worthy goes 28th to the Kansas City Chiefs. Ricky Purcell, surprise pick here, goes at the 31st pick. And the Panthers traded up just to get that 5th-year option for Xavier Leggett. They said that because it took him 5 years to break out in college, they needed to get that 5th year to him to break out in his 5th season at the NFL level. So that's fun. But Coach Tyler, of these guys here, who's someone you like and someone who maybe you're trying to stay away from a little bit?
So I'll go with sort of the consensus answer and then we'll go slick answer. We'll go with that. So consensus of these 4, everyone loves Xavier Worthy, right? He falls into the best landing spot possible with the best quarterback in the NFL. And the Chiefs made a point to trade up to go get him. They were scared that Buffalo might take him. They were scared that San Francisco might grab him, whatever runs in that area. But Kansas City made it to the point to make a move to go get him, which means that Andy Reid is sitting back there already game planning what he's going to do with Xavier Worthy. You don't make that move unless you know exactly how you're going to use the guy, especially with how Patrick Mahomes has won with the receiving cores in the past. But, he's got the elite speed. We're seeing reports that Rashee Rice is going to be – it's expected that he's suspended for the first half of the season. Marquise Brown is another speed guy that they added this year, but I think he's on another 1-year deal.
Yes.
But Xavier Worthy, I talked about it pre-draft. I just don't love the size. He is a smaller, thinner receiver, and there's only so many hits you can take before that really starts to affect your game. But I think at this point, if you're picking between these 4 guys, you're getting a round 1 receiver who has more than elite speed, who holds the combine record for 40s. He is a great route runner. That's something that people like to forget since he put up that 4.21. And the Kansas City Chiefs, who just won a Super Bowl with a bunch of no-names, honestly, at receiver, are now trading up to go get this guy. There's a game plan for him. I think he's going to be good. The size does concern me, but I think that they'll be able to keep him safe, be able to not play him over the middle too much to get him hurt. And then one guy I'm really liking is Slicky Ricky.
Oh,
Ricky Pearsall. You know, San Francisco is a place that is so well coached that any success is immediately attributed to the coaches, right? Brock Purdy is going out there and people are saying that he's having an MVP season, and everyone on social media and on ESPN and everything is calling him a system quarterback, right? Because you could throw anyone in there and they'll be successful. Well, we saw during the draft, we saw pre-draft that Brandon Ayuk was already asking out, wanting to trade to go get a new deal. During the draft, we saw that the Niners were taking and sending out calls for Debo and Ayuk to see what deals they could find. There's one of them that's not going to be in the offense past this year for sure, but there's a chance that we see a deal between now and June or July or August in which Brandon Ayuk or Debo Samuel is not there. And you get this elite route runner running with Kyle Shanahan in an offense, there's some crazy things that they're going to be able to do with him. And Brock Purdy is able to get the ball to him accurately. And so I think Ricky is another one of those guys. It might be a long shot. I don't want to think it's a long shot, but it could be a long shot that he is successful. But at the same time, you know, if we're talking situation, you know, he has the talent. Everyone saw the one-handed catch that he made. That was the first highlight reel play that comes up. And, you know, he's a great route runner, and we talked about him. He's going to be a slot guy, but he's going to do it so well that it's not going to be a demeaning term to him. But you give someone like Kyle Shanahan a great slot guy, he can do amazing things with him. And so I think Pearsall has the potential to be valuable for your fantasy teams, especially out of these four.
I like it. I like it a lot there. I like the sneaky pick there with Ricky. So with this group here, I like to talk a little bit more ADP here because, you know, you're learning when you should take these kind of guys at this point here. And I have a nice ADP setup right now that's going very well with all my leagues. So if you're looking to take these guys, Xavier Worthy and Brian Thomas Jr., they go in the first round. First round, you know, the talent prospect coming out is a little bit better than what we're seeing with Purcell and Leggett when we were talking about prospects earlier this offseason here. Xavier Worthy is going to go at the 109. More times than not, if you have the 109 pick, you're getting Xavier Worthy because it's the top 4 quarterbacks, the top 3 receivers, and Brock Bowers are off the board. That leaves Xavier Worthy for you. So you're in a good situation as a contending team to have a guy like Worthy who may not be consistent early on, but will have he's the better best ball guy. A lot of these guys are better best ball guys. Brian Thomas Jr., better best ball guy. He goes in the first round right now. He might not be in on every play. He's not a great blocker. That's why they have Gabe Davis. They did release Zay Jones, so his playing time will probably open up here. But again, Worthy and Thomas are more best ball guys this year. You don't really want to trust them for consistent fantasy play this season. Ricky Pearsall, I wasn't as high on him as maybe some other players were, especially Tyler right now, talking him up right now this week. But he's going around the middle of the second round. So if you're looking for a guy like this, maybe you like the talent coming out, you're going to be able to get him pretty easily in that second round range there. Xavier Leggett, same situation here. I like what he has going on for him. I know that the fifth-year breakout concerns a lot of people. Again, there's a backstory with him translating from quarterback and everything like that. It takes time to really grasp the position in full. And I think there's potential opportunity for him in this offense that outside of no one really, everyone's new to this offense. There's no one really that is there from the prior, really. I mean, Adam Thielen is old. Deontay Johnson can't hold on to the ball 10 times out of 10, really. Leggett has an opportunity to have a starting role in year one of his thing, and I think people are overlooking that because of the late breakout age and everything that goes along with his game. But again, he's another mid-range wide receiver too that you're getting maybe more the late end. But that's how these round one wide receivers are going.
I did love, when we talked pre-draft about receivers, we were talking about Brian Thomas Jr. And I said that he needs to change his name to Gabe Davis Jr. because all they do is run straight well.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I talked about Gabe Davis being a big boost for Christian Kirk. Go buy up Christian Kirk where you can, because they're going to send Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. just straight down the field, and Gabe Davis is going to have that whole middle of the field to work with.
I like that.
Or not Gabe Davis.
Brian Thomas.
What did you say? Christian Kirk.
Oh, Christian Kirk. Yes.
There we go.
The late night has my brain like all wrapped up here. This is why we don't do the late night show, guys, because my brain is already fried from the day. So looking at the rest of these, going round 2 now. There's only 4 wide receivers taken in round 2, starting with Keon Coleman to the Buffalo Bills, the first pick of the second round. Next pick after that, Ladd McConkey went to the Los Angeles Chargers. A couple of picks later, this was a little bit of a surprise that Jalen Polk went to the New England Patriots. And then it fall to some people, Adonai, I can't say his first name at all. Adonai, thank you. Adonai Mitchell went down to the Indianapolis Colts as a kind of a fall to some people. So Coach Tyler, who's here you like? Who's someone that which of these guys are you trying to target in rookie drafts?
Yeah, so I will say Adonai, he usually goes by AD, so it'd be a little bit easier to remember. AD, to say.
Love that.
Yeah. I'm really the guy out of these 4 that I really like is the guy who landed exactly where I wanted Malik Neighbors to be, and that's Ladd McConkey. The Chargers, I said last year before the draft, Quentin Johnson is a bust. He shouldn't be a first-round receiver. We saw that 1,000% in year 1. And me being the very set-in-stone person that I am, still believe that is the case. He should not have been a round 1 wide receiver. He's not all that good, right? And then they've got Joshua Palmer. They've got guys that are out there that they can throw the ball to. But Ladd McConkey comes in, and he's a round 2 guy that could earn a lot of early target share, right? He was not utilized as much just because of how much Georgia ran the ball and how often the defense was sort of sealing games for them and they didn't have to throw it. Sort of like we talked about with J.J. McCarthy and how he didn't have to go win games throwing the ball, right? Ladd McConkey didn't have to go win games catching the ball. But he is a great receiver, and I think that looking at the Harbaugh setup, we talked about Roman Wilson and how well he was utilized in the Harbaugh system. Obviously, Harbaugh brought in some of his Michigan guys, but I think Ladd McConkey could become that Roman Wilson type of guy in the offense. That hey, we've got to throw the ball. We've got to actually gain yards that we aren't getting on the ground. We need to hit you on a comeback. We need to hit you on a quick route, and you go gain some yak, right? And I think Ladd McConkey is the perfect guy to slot into that role, and I think that's why they took him as early as they did at the beginning of the second round. So I really like Ladd McConkey. Jalen Polk, he was a guy that I personally loved. We talked about he was kind of marred by injury last year, and so his stats don't look as good as they did the year before. Obviously, you have to watch the film from both years and see. But this was a very productive receiver, and just like how we talked about the rookie chemistry between rookie quarterbacks and rookie receivers coming in together with Caleb and Rome, I could see this being Drake May's guy as they're getting into the league together and growing. And so he's a guy that I like to target. He's going to fall a little bit lower than some of these guys just because this was a little bit of a surprise pick. And we look at New England, and it's not the greatest situation for a receiver to fall into.
It's true.
But at the same time, Jalen Polk has produced at a very high level. And the fact that New England went and got their guy, what is that, 5 picks into the second round?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it shocks the world as long as they are getting the guy that they want and they think can produce for them and can fit into the system that they're creating. And so if New England believes in him that much, he's going to fall, where's he at in your ADP? Third round?
Last pick of the second round.
Okay, so very late second, early third round.
Yeah.
At that point, I would take a shot on him just because the guys that you're going to be drafting around him, I think he has the potential to outpace some of them. And I don't love Adonai Mitchell. I feel like that's been a consensus take. I'm a big Anthony Richardson fan. He definitely boosts real life Colts and he boosts Anthony Richardson fantasy. But him and his production, I don't know what it's going to look like. Also, Keon Coleman, I like him. I like the landing spot a lot, especially with that draft capital. I did tell all my buddies, they just released video of his combine interview, and he is quickly challenging Jameis Winston for my favorite personality in the league. So that might be worth getting on your team in the first place.
I love it. Yeah, with Coleman, McConkey is the only other person in round 2 that gets first round ADP right now. He's the 11th player taken off the board here. Again, there's upside with his game here. Again, he can easily challenge any of the wide receivers in the Chargers for the number 1 target share right now. They don't have a legit tight end, so they don't really have a lot of weapons on offense. McConkey could come in as the slot guy here and produce from year 1. That's kind of why you take him in the first round, because he's tied to Justin Herbert. They need someone to step up, and Lag could easily do that. Keon Coleman is going in the early part of round 2. There's obviously upside there with his game being attached to Josh Allen. The fact that he could easily start on the outside with a lot of slot wide receivers and tight ends that they have currently on the roster there's definitely upside to his game, despite that there's some kind of floor to him a little bit, but the upside is there. Jalen Polk, again, I wasn't overly high on him, but like we already mentioned, he's going at the end of round 2. There at that point, guy went in the second round of the NFL draft. There's value there, so take the value while you can. AD Mitchell, again, I liked him as a prospect. I don't love the landing spot, unfortunately. I don't think this is a situation where talent wins out, because they don't have a pass-first quarterback. They have a very strong run game, and they have Anthony Richardson, who loves to run the ball. And they have a number 1 wide receiver in Michael Pittman Jr., who's very good. And they also have Josh Downs, too. Josh Downs was pretty solid last year. So Mitchell, I don't really see him doing a whole lot. Again, he kind of goes in the middle of round 2 here, but I've seen his value escalate to early second and early third. So like people are up and down on him. And if you want him, know your league and see where he kind of falls at. But he could be a riser, could be a faller for a lot of rookie drafts right now.
I think Mitchell just slots into the Alec Pierce role. Maybe he does it a little bit better. But
Hopefully.
You look at Pierce's production and the role that he had in the offense, I think that's exactly where Mitchell goes. I think he could produce a little bit more, just talent prospect-wise. He's better than Alec Pierce was coming out. But if you want to see how he's going to be utilized in this offense, go look at what Pierce was last year and see if that's how you trust Mitchell doing.
Yeah, I think he had like 70, 80 targets, something like that. So, I mean, that's something. All right, over to round 3 here. We have some more wide receivers going off the board. Mekhi Corley off to the Jets, first pick of round 3. Following that, we had Jermaine Burton went over to the Cincinnati Bengals. Roman Wilson went to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jalen McMillan going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Luke McCaffrey heading over to the Washington Commanders here. So, Coach Tyler, of this round here, which of these wide receivers do you like?
First, I want to give a shout-out to Luke McCaffrey and the Rice Owls putting on for Houston. No one is ever drafted from Rice these days, so it's really fun to see. But outside of the McCaffrey name, Jermaine Burton is the one that interests me the most. Going to Cincinnati, obviously we know that T. Higgins has requested trade after trade, and he wants out, right? And if I'm not mistaken, Tyler Boyd is gone from Cincinnati. He's a free agent. And so there's a lot of open targets with Boyd gone, but there's a lot more possible open targets if T. Higgins is dealt before the season. And again, we talk about going to a good quarterback landing spot. He's tied to Joe Burrow, who, whether he can stay healthy or not, we'll see. But when he's healthy, he's at least a top 5 to 8 quarterback in the league, depending on how on fire he is that day. But Burton he wasn't a bad prospect. He is a guy that sort of fell in this range of, he's a good enough prospect. He played at Bama, but at the same time, he wasn't, a Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy when he was at Bama, Amari Cooper, like these world breaker guys. And so he has the talent to go compete with top-level talent. It's what he did at Bama. Obviously, we know he was with Jalen Milroe this past year, and so there weren't too many receivers that were doing anything in that offense. But as a prospect, I liked him enough to recognize his value in this range, and seeing him go into Cincinnati, not only tied to the quarterback that he'll be tied to, but the situation of the receiver room, basically being able to step in as the Tyler Boyd role, if not take some of those targets that are open if T. Higgins gets moved or dealt or anything. And even not, next year he'll be a free agent. He obviously wants out of Cincinnati and wants a deal. So more likely than not, he's gone in free agency at the least next year before this year. So Burton's a guy that I would like to buy into because they don't have a ton outside of, Chase and T. They have Andre I don't ever know how to say his last name. And they've done some work in that tight end room. But Burton's a guy that I could see stepping into a good amount. Yeah, I'm decent with names. I'm not good with that one. But Burton's a guy that I could see stepping into a role immediately and then stepping into a role that continues to grow as he goes along.
I like it. Burton is definitely someone who a lot of people are targeting. So starting off with the ADP, Romo Wilson is the one that is going in round 2 still. Is late round 2 here. Again, I don't see it completely. Wasn't a huge fan of the prospect. I know some people really think that he was underutilized there in Michigan and that there's some opportunity for growth for him. And obviously he's coming into an offense where number 2 pass catcher, a wide receiver for the Steelers, is kind of unknown right now. So there is an opportunity for him to kind of build into that offense there with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. I heard Justin Fields might be taking back kick returns for the Steelers this year.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. The Steelers are doing some great things. So Wilson is going at the end of round 2. And then you have your group of round 3 guys here, the Corleys, which I think, again, I wasn't the biggest fan on his opportunity, but he's really explosive and he's got some upside to his game there that he might have an opportunity there if Mike Williams can't stay on the field. I said Tremaine Burton. Tyler just kind of talked about him already here. He's going in round 2. He's a big round 2 value that people love to grab because I've had many people say, "Oh, you just sniped me in rookie drafts," and I've said it to people as well. So he is a big target in the round 3 range. Another guy is Jalen McMillan. He's another guy out of the Bucs situation here. He's the 3rd wide receiver to go off the board for the Washington University, so good for them for doing very well getting wide receivers drafted this year. Again, very underrated wide receiver that I really liked his prospect coming out. I can kind of see a similar path to him to kind of like a Chris Godwin where his year 1 isn't as good. Chris Godwin leaves and he kind of can fill in as that replacement moving forward in 2025. Again, they drafted wide receivers. They drafted a lot of wide receivers last year, and then they went they went in round 3 and took another one. So that kind of tells you how they feel about the wide receiver core. They need to bring another guy in, and McMillan can kind of do that for you. And then last but not least, we kind of mentioned Luke McCaffrey already. He goes in the 4th round of a lot of rookie drafts here. Again, he's still a development wide receiver that's learning the position and going to be taking a big jump from coming from Rice to the NFL in terms of the competition and size that he's going to go up against here. There's opportunity with Washington there, absolutely. But again, he's more of a development guy that has upside. All right, and over to round 4, round 5. There was no round 4 guys. I don't think I had any round 4 receivers. I don't know why I didn't have any round 4 wide receivers here. Maybe there were none. I feel like there was, but I don't know. All right, so over to round 5 wide receivers here. Anthony Gould goes to the Indianapolis Colts. Adonis Smith goes to Anias, thank you. Anias Smith goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. Jermaine Trash goes to the Browns, and Bud Means goes to the Steelers. Again, this is pretty much – I don't know why I even made this slide because I don't know, Tyler. Is there anyone here that stands out for you? Because none of these guys are getting drafted. So,
Anias Smith, he's just a guy that holds a special place in my heart. Done a lot of work. My company has done a lot of work with him and his family and his father. So, obviously, got some relational ties out there. Love him. None of these guys really overly excite me for fantasy. Smith could be a gadget guy in that Philly offense. He was kind of I want to say he was utilized very well at A&M. Obviously as a pass catcher, but he was able to be that jet sweep guy. He was able to be the returner. He just did a lot for the A&M team, and being a guy that has all those tools in your belt at the SEC level speaks a little bit of volume about what you can handle, hopefully in the NFL. So I think that he could be a gadget guy for Philly, but he's not a guy that I'm really drafting as much as kind of keeping him on the watch list in case he becomes something.
That's fair. That's fair. Again, a lot of these guys that go very much undrafted in your redraft, your dynasty rookie drafts, honestly. Like I think Smith might be the only one that gets an opportunity here and there, but everyone else is just like, yeah, these guys are just not worth rostering right now until they can kind of show something. But we did have round 4 wide receivers go. I just missed the slide here. So you guys are going to see my Canva, how I make all my slide points tonight. So special to you guys. So round 4 had a lot of wide receivers and a lot of ones that a lot of people seem to like, obviously. So the round 4 wide receivers, Troy Franklin goes to the Denver Broncos. He links up with Bo Nix. Javon Baker goes to the New England Patriots here. I really like. Tez Walker goes to the Baltimore Ravens, and Jacob Cowing goes to the San Francisco 49ers here. Coach Tyler, tell us about these round 4 wide receivers. Who stands out to someone that you want to draft in rookie drafts?
Yeah, big fan of Troy Franklin and his landing spot. Linking back up with Bo Nix after the career year that they both just had together, I think it makes the transition easier for both of them going into training camp in that first season in the NFL. But there is a lot of really question marks about what Denver's going to do, right? They don't have really – they're basically in debt to the cap. I don't think there's any way that they can be inside the cap for the next couple years dealing with Russell Wilson and all the guys that are gone now. So the draft is really how they're going to have to make their money in terms of weapons. And that means that guys like Courtland Sutton probably aren't going to get paid. And that means that guys like Javonte Williams, we'll see. He hadn't been overly healthy, but he's going to come up on a contract year, and he might not get paid. We don't know. Dulcich might be there tied into the future, but he's 2-3 years in the league. He's going to come up on a contract year, and he might not get paid. So many valuable pieces of this offense are coming up in the next year or two on their end of the rookie contracts, and Denver is in no way prepared financially to pay all of them. And so Troy Franklin coming in on a cheap rookie contract where he's got 4 years that he's connected with his quarterback that he spent the last – Bo Nix was at Oregon for 3 years? I'll say the past 3 years.
Yes.
Yeah. So the quarterback that he's been playing with for the past 3 years, he gets another 4 years with him as they transition to the NFL. I just see such a good opportunity for Troy Franklin. He was a guy that a lot of people saw as dropping, right? He was, a lot of people's – I saw that he was a lot of people's wide receiver 4 and wide receiver 5.
Yeah.
So going in the 4th round was just crazy to everyone and really just all of the NFL community. And so he's a guy that I think his name value is still going to be there in drafts enough to make you actually have to pick him at where he should be valued. But even there, because of the draft capital, I think it's still going to be a good value to have.
Yeah. Now, this round, I really do like a lot of these wide receiver. Troy Franklin, again, there's issues about him and his press coverage and if he can kind of handle it at the next level here. But he's got a lot of speed. He's going to have a quarterback he's used to playing with and a big opportunity, especially if the team trades Courtland Sutton this offseason. There's prime opportunity. He's a second-round pick right now. He's a mid to late second-round pick in a lot of rookie drafts here. I've seen him go higher. I've seen him kind of go low. He's another guy like Mitchell who kind of fluctuates on the rookie scale right now. And it really just depends if you like him and if you think he can kind of make it. And that's kind of what his ADP kind of tells us right now. Javon Baker is in that mix of that round 3 wide receivers that I just absolutely love. Baker's got tremendous upside, and as somebody who can play as a wide receiver one in a New England Patriot offense that desperately needs a wide receiver one there. Baker is a guy I really like there, and he's a really special talent. So he's somebody in round 3 you should definitely be targeting. Tez Walker, again, you either like his talent or you don't like his talent. It's kind of what I've been seeing in a lot of these drafts right now. I mean, there's a lot of upside to his game. He's got opportunity potentially in this Ravens offense to kind of stand out. Again, I don't think it's that hard to beat Rashad Bateman out at this point. I don't know why he even got an extension. But Walker has an opportunity to go in there. But Walker's another guy. He's going in round 4, actually. He goes in the beginning of round 4, but I've seen his value go mid third to almost, I think I got him at the last pick of my draft, one of my drafts. So his value really does go up and down in rookie drafts right now. But he's another guy in late round to take a shot on. Jacob Cowing, he's a guy who's going in round 4 as well. Again, that 49ers offense is kind of crowded right now. More of like a long-term project to see if maybe things open up there over the next 2 years. All right, now we can get rid of this this thing here. Here we go. All right, back to the actual slideshow at hand here now. Now we're going to the 6th round here. This is going to be a lot of fun talking about all these names here. Here we go. Jaquan Jackson goes.
Do you want me to go through?
Do you want to go through? Because I don't want to butcher anyone's name. So you go through it, Tyler.
I'll do my best. I know most of these guys.
Cool.
So Jaquan Jackson, 6th round to Tennessee Titans, Malik Washington to the Miami Dolphins, Johnny Wilson, the giant human from Florida State goes to Philly, Casey Washington goes to Atlanta, Tejon Palmer goes to the Cardinals. This is the one I don't know. Ryan Flournoy.
I think that's how it sounds. Yeah, Ryan Flournoy
goes to the Cowboys. Then we got Jordan Whittington going to the Rams.
Shocker.
Yeah.
So, again, there's probably no one here that you're drafting either, but I just wanted to mention their names. I don't know if there's someone here you like. You can say no. It's fine.
There's another one of my watch list guys, kind of sitting and seeing what he becomes, Jordan Whittington, kind of in that same realm as Anais Smith. He transitioned to a little bit more of a strict receiver this past season, but he was just an all-around, I don't want to say gadget guy, but like multiple tools in the belt guy for the University of Texas. He'd come in and he'd go play one play in the slot, and the next play he'd come out and he'd be in a double back set for them. And then, he'd go return kicks and punts, and he just did kind of everything that you could do. So, again, we talk about the coaches and their minds, that Sean McVay mind. If he finds a new versatile toy that he can play with, we can see something happen. I doubt that it does happen, but he's a guy I'll hit watch list on. And if I start to see that usage go up a little bit and a little bit more, he might be a guy that's worth a deep, deep ad. We'll see. I don't think he becomes anything, but it doesn't hurt to have that name on your radar just in case.
That's fair. The only guy I want to mention is Malik Washington. Very fast guy that I think can beat out Braxton Berrios for the wide receiver role in the Miami Dolphins offense here. I don't think it's that hard to beat out Braxton Berrios, to be honest here. And Washington's the only guy that is actually getting drafted right now in a lot of rookie drafts. He's going in the 4th round, sometimes goes undrafted, but I can tell you right now, not a single one of these other guys are getting drafted right now. I had them all relatively low in my rookie profile rankings. They were near the bottoms. I think I had Jordan Whittington at the very last one, to be honest, unfortunately. But a lot of these guys you don't really need to know them too well. Keep your eye on them in training camp and see if something progresses with one of them. But again, for the most part, they're got guys you're looking to go after in rookie drafts, even in the last picks. Last round, again, this is very similar, but there's one guy I want to mention here, and we'll talk about him in a second. But in round 7, Cornelius Johnson goes to the Steelers. Tajay Washington goes to the Miami Dolphins. Devon Vane goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, and then Brendan Rice, the son of Jerry Rice, goes to the not the Indian. Oh my God, I'm struggling with that. I am so sorry, guys. That's the wrong thing. Brendan Rice goes in the 7th round to the Los Angeles Chargers here. So Tyler, does Rice have any value for you? Because he's getting drafted much higher than a lot of people are getting drafted. I'll tell you that. For a 7th round guy.
He is a guy that is very, we talked about the name value of guys, and being the son of Jerry Rice, there is some name value to, him coming into the league. Obviously, he didn't set the world on fire at USC, but he is a guy that could be utilized. Like we talked about with McConkey, there's a lot of target volume that's going to have to go somewhere, and I'm sure Harbaugh doesn't want it going into the sideline. And so there's going to be a lot of competition for those targets going through training camp, and these guys are going to have to compete. And I think that Brendan Rice, with the mentality that he was most likely raised with, knowing who his father was and how much of a dog he was, he could have that mental game ready and have enough tool athletically to win out and get some targets, right? I don't think he's going to be the wide receiver one for this team.
No.
But at the same time, there's a chance that everything culminates together. He's going into a spot that needs someone to take over, right? Losing Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, that doesn't do anything good for a receiving core that does nothing to replenish it. And so there's going to be a lot of who is this guy? What can he do? How can we utilize him? And I think that Brendan Rice is going into the perfect situation for him where there's going to be a lot of open volume, right? He's not going to be kind of pigeonholed as the wide receiver 3 or 4 or 5 and have to try and work up and down. I feel like there's going to be a big fluidity with the Chargers offense, at least through the first 6-8 weeks of the season, trying to figure out who can be our guy in the passing game. Because they're not going to waste Justin Herbert's arm. They're not just going to run the ball every play. And so I think that he is in a good spot to have opportunity and potential. I think that he is being a little bit – what?
DJ Shark to the Chargers, 1-year deal. Oh,
well,
sorry, Brent.
Speaking
sorry,
of,
Rice. There's the big
no
big
longer
frame wide
target
receiver.
competition. There's no longer target competition. I do think he is being a little bit overdrafted just because of name value.
Round three value right now.
Yeah, round 3 for a 7th round receiver who is healthy.
I have 0 shares.
Yeah, I will have 0 drafted shares of Brendan Rice.
Exactly.
But yeah, DJ Chark just ruined that whole explanation. Just skip past that.
Exactly. Quick promos real quick. Obviously, me and Coach Tyler, we do some work at Dynasty Nerds, obviously there. We've been talking about the film room for months. And again, something you should always consider looking at even though we're out of rookie season now. But 2025 season is starting to come, and I'm sure they're going to be starting putting up film for that very shortly, I'm sure. And of course, again, once you finish your rookie drafts, check out the Dynasty Nerd GM. It's a really fun place to go and kind of analyze how your team is doing compared to the rest of your teams. You can look up trades and do a trade calculator there and kind of come up with the best value for your trades in those Dynasty leagues here. A lot of fun. Use our promo code Coach, and let them know that we sent you guys. So, and of course, did it. A very great app to use for fantasy football if you're looking to get more of a one-on-one experience with an analyst out there. I'm on it a lot of times there. I was on it all weekend with rookie drafts coming up right now and talking to people. It's a lot of fun to do. Again, it's another way to get the most from your fantasy football. So, and over to the tight ends here now. From day 1 and day 2, there are only 3 tight ends taken here. We're going to start from the top here. Obviously, the consensus number 1 tight end to a lot of people was Brock Bowers. Goes to a unfamiliar landing spot to the Las Vegas Raiders at the 14th pick here. Coach Tyler, how do you feel about Brock Bowers now as a Raider?
I'm just confused on the Raiders' plan. Obviously it's a new staff coming in, but they spent a high 2nd-round pick on Michael Mayer last year, and they go out. I guess their scouting department must all play Devy because they're just going for the Devy darlings at tight end every year from here on out. But I think that there's still enough openness there in that offense to where these two receiver sets or these two tight end sets can be utilized. I think that Bowers obviously walks in as the tight end one. Mayer wasn't overly exciting in year one. And so I think adding Brock Bowers to that only kind of deafens the noise on him. But this is going to be a team that's looking for their identity under new head coach Antonio Pierce, under a lot of new front office staff. And so I don't love the landing spot. This is one where I kind of take the talent over the landing spot, but also understand your league, right? Talk to people about the draft and these prospects. Get a little secret intel if you can. Because I've seen some drafts where Bowers is falling behind, the wide receiver 4s or 5s. There's Xavier Worthy's being taken before Brock Bowers. And there's positions where you can either trade back or be exactly where you're at and end up with, the tight end one in the draft. And so, again, talent over landing spot for this one. I think that they're going to have to find a way to utilize him. But I think that they're going to do it well enough that he's going to be, I don't think he's going to be, the tight end one in his rookie year like he could have been in possibly a couple other situations. But at the same time, you're still getting an elite dynasty tight end with the youth there to add to your team. And the talent is up there with, the top 2 or 3 tight ends that we have in the league.
Right. No, I mean, I'm hopeful that that's the case. I'm hoping this offense can kind of utilize him to the best of their abilities. I mean, they just signed Michael Gallup as well recently. They have Jacoby Myers. They have Devontae Adams. There's a lot of mouths to feed there in this offense here. So I'm hoping that Brock Bowers can find some value early on. I mean, Luke Getzey's the OC there. He worked with Cole Kmet the last few years here and there. He's has a history of using tight ends. But again, Michael Myers there, I don't know exactly what his role is going to be moving forward now, if his just kind of reverts back into more of a blocking tight end. And because that's kind of what people were concerned with him, is that like, oh, he's just such a good tight end, but he's good to use on the line a lot of times. Maybe not as much as a weapon, but Brock Bowers coming in as a potential weapon for this offense. He goes no later than the 108, off the board more times than not there. I've avoided him. Of all the first round picks, he's the only one I've not grabbed. I don't know. I don't want to. I'd rather wait and make sure he pans out before taking that top 8 pick. I'd rather trade him. I'd rather trade for him a year from now and use a first round pick to get him then, knowing that he does make it and he is in the right situation. But again, he's a top tier talent. He's going to go in the top 8 picks. If you want him, that's where you're going to have to get him.
Yeah. He's a guy that I want to fall into my lap for me to pick him.
Right.
He's not someone that I'm going to go chase after.
No.
But if he falls in, if I'm sitting at the 110 and he's still on the board and I'm up on the clock, I'll take it.
Oh, yeah. Good value then. Yeah. I have a lot of 109s. If he fell to 109, I would be like, all right, let me get him. But he doesn't usually get past 108. Next tight end off the board here, Ben Sinnott, one of Tyler boys here, goes in the second round to the Washington Commanders here. Tyler, obviously you love this pick, correct?
Yep. He was my tight end too. The league agreed. Someone hired me for their front office today, please.
I love it.
I love Sinnott. He's walking into a Washington team. There is a lot of weaponry already there.
There are.
But at the same time, you look at that tight end room, and it's crap. In all honesty, it's crap.
Exactly.
And 10 years ago, maybe. We're going to talk about Zach Ertz, actually. But, like we talked about, Washington has a new OC that I really like, possibly because he was the head coach of my college football team, Cliff Kingsbury. And what happened to Zach Ertz when he ended up in Arizona with Cliff Kingsbury as the head coach calling those plays? He was tight end 8 on a points per game basis, if I remember that stat right.
Early on, yeah.
Tight end 8, yeah.
Before he got hurt, I think.
Yeah, so youngish, uninjured Zach Ertz came in as tight end 8. And now we have the same guy calling plays who gets this young, physical, I just want to go hit people tight end who is able to, not only go down the line and whack someone, but at the same time, he can go up and grab a ball, and it's going to take more than one DB to come bring him down.
Yeah.
And so I think that he slots into a great role. There's a little bit more that he'll need to develop just being at the next level. I don't think he's, coming out as the NFL ready tight end at all. But if they develop him, they could use him so well in that offense. And a Cliff Kingsbury offense is favorable to the tight end position. So if you get this young guy who's still moldable, but at the same time, this extremely physical, eager guy, I think that he could be a weapon for them to use and could be utilized. I don't think he's going to be an elite talent at the NFL level. That could obviously change as we see things pan out. I don't think he's going to be elite, but for Jaden Daniels coming in, I think having that safety blanket is going to be so nice, and especially the way that Cliff utilizes tight ends, I think that it could work in perfect harmony to where he possibly ends up as the tight end one of this rookie class this season.
I like that. I like that analysis breakdown there. Yeah. Again, I didn't know much about Sanat until Tyler said something about him, so I started looking him up, and obviously I do really like him a lot as a prospect here. Lands in the second round, basically the only other tight end taking outside of Brock Bowers in the first 2 rounds, which is fantastic capital for his value overall. But he's going in the 3rd round. Again, he kind of, and sometimes he's in the late second, but a lot of times he ends up in the 3rd round. Again, if you're looking for a tight end where you don't have to spend value on him like a Brock Bowers, Ben Sinnott later in the rounds is a great option to go with. Again, he may not have immediate success, but there is a long-term value in his play there, and an offense where the Commanders could cut ties with Jahan Dotson probably after this year. Terry McLaurin's getting a little bit up there in age, even though he's relatively young for his NFL career, and they don't really have any other options. I mean, Austin Eckler is probably on a 1-year deal. He's probably out of there after this season if he doesn't perform well. They need weapons on this offense here, and Sinnott in year 2 could be massive improvements coming his way in terms of a breakout season here. So somebody to get now while you can. Take an early round pick on Brock Bowers, take a late round pick on Ben Sinnott. I'd rather take the late round option right now if I could. Again, Brock Bowers, great talent. Don't get me wrong. Sinnott has a lot of value for it where you're getting him out in rookie drafts right now. And then we have another tight end that goes Tip Rillman. He's a really good blocking tight end there, and he's going to be great. I don't know why I have Chicago there. I'm pretty sure he went to the Cardinals. He went to the Cardinals in the 3rd round here. Great blocking tight end, does not get drafted in rookie drafts. Just leave it at that. On to the round 4 tight ends here. Jatavian Sanders goes to the first pick in round 4 to the Carolina Panthers. Theo Johnson off the board to the New York Giants. Eric All goes to the Cincinnati Bengals. AJ Barner goes to the Seattle Seahawks. Cade Stover goes to Houston. And Jared Wiley goes to the Kansas City Chiefs here. Now, Coach Tyler, anyone here that stands out to you that you want to talk about that you would consider grabbing?
I really like Jatavian Sanders. He was sitting there at the end of day 2 and with Carolina right there and not a great tight end room in Carolina. Yeah, we saw the retooling of what this offense would look like with the addition of Xavier Legette. We see a little bit we saw in round 2 with Jonathan Brooks. And so, Carolina is finally committing to putting weapons around Bryce Young to try and help him succeed. And they're young weapons, but sometimes that growth together helps. And I like Sanders a lot. He is far more on the receiving tight end side of the spectrum than the blocking tight end side. And like I said, we don't get fantasy points for blocking.
No.
If you do, I really want to join that league because I'd really like to see what it looks like. But Sanders, fell into the lap of the Panthers, and they rushed to get this pick in at the beginning of day 3. And so he's a guy that really intrigues me. Obviously Bryce Young didn't have a stellar rookie year, and we talk about these safety blankets. This is a big old guy who will go out there and pluck the ball out of the air over just about anyone. And he's fast enough and crafty enough in his routes that he can work off of linebackers. And so I really like him going to Carolina. Homer pick, I like Cade Stover, going to Houston, reuniting. I mean, he's reuniting with his college quarterback who just had one of the greatest rookie quarterback seasons in the NFL. So,
he's my tight end too. I get it.
Yeah, great tight end, great receiving tight end. Obviously not overutilized because of just how many NFL talent players they have in that receiving room. But he is still a great tight end, and he's hooking back up with CJ. Obviously, he's going to be behind Dalton Schultz, who just signed a 3-year extension this past offseason, if I'm remembering that contract correct.
Yes.
But, Stover, great tight end. He's going to be later in your drafts, and that's where you can kind of take these risks. And then Jared Wiley is just one that I'm going to throw out there. A lot of people are calling him the Travis Kelce replacement. And if you watch his college tape and you see how he moves, I like it a little bit. I'm obviously not going to invest Travis Kelce capital in him. If you played fantasy football back whenever Travis Kelce was coming in the league, I would invest that same amount of capital into Jared Wiley right now. But he is this hyper-athletic, big receiving tight end who is going into a spot where obviously he just signed an enormous 2-year extension. But Travis Kelce is eventually going to have to retire. Yeah. It doesn't look like it's coming anytime soon, but eventually he's going to retire.
Tony Gonzalez played until he's 37. 5 years from now, maybe he'll retire.
We'll see. But Jared Wiley's just a guy that I like. I saw him play at TCU a lot, just watching those games. I like his tape. Very good receiver, and just big body guy. Obviously going in behind Travis Kelce and then Noah Gray. We'll see if he makes the roster, what he does there. But if people are calling him, Travis Kelce 2.0, I'm going to at least keep an eye on the situation and see what happens.
That's fair. Yeah, so with ADP on these guys here, Sanders is a guy that's going to go in round 3 a lot of times. Him and Sonata, the only tight ends really drafted in the first 3 rounds outside of Bowers, obviously, here. Good value. He's going to end up in a situation where he has opportunity to work and see targets in an offense that need weapons. So great landing spot for him. Theo Johnson, again, tremendous upside, kind of a tight end. There's some things they need to do in his game overall if he wants to be successful at the next level. We don't know what's going on with Darren Waller. There's potential for him. He's someone that's kind of going in the 4th round consistently. Eric All is another guy who's consistently going in the 4th round. Guy out of Iowa. A guy whose film I liked. Again, he didn't really wow in terms of production, but there is some talent there that the Bengals have been looking for a tight end ever since they had lost Tyler Eifert years ago, basically. They've been looking for a tight end, and again, they have this Mike Gesicki, Eric All. I think they drafted somebody else. I think it's in the next pick here. They drafted somebody else, but they're looking for that tight end. Eric All kind of is more of an all-around tight end than just a normal blocking or just receiving tight end. AJ Barner not going in drafts. Again, he's going to be behind. Again, he might have the most value. Watch, just because Seattle loves it. Well, it's a different team now. Pete Carroll's not there using 3 tight end sets consistently, but AJ Barner is not going in many drafts. Cade Stover, a couple 4th round picks here. Again, he's kind of a guy that probably good in 2 years. If Dalton Schultz contract is like, you're paying you too much. We got to go in a different direction here. Stover might have a chance then. Jarrett Wiley is someone who recently in rookie drafts have been kind of, probably after that comment, has been kind of going in that 4th round now in the later picks because, hey, you're telling me this guy's the next Travis Kelce 2.0. I'm going to want to draft him and just hold on to him if I want to. And again, he's becoming more of a 4th round pick lately. And then last but not least, we got 3 tight ends on this last page here. Tanner McLaughlin goes to Arizona Cardinals. Jermaine Bell goes to the New England Patriots. And Devin Coop goes to the Bucks. Anyone here, Coach Tyler, can tell you no one's being
McLaughlin.
drafted.
Yeah, McLaughlin was a guy that was kind of rising up boards pre-draft in terms of how the fantasy analysts looked at him. Obviously, with 6th round capital, the NFL didn't agree with all the fantasy analysts in him rising up the boards. So, yeah, no one that really intrigues me. knowing that I'm really liking and knowing that I'm really
Yeah,
I don't think there's
ends.
any really taxiable guys in this list.
No. I like Devin Coop, but like he's just not valuable in dynasty leagues right now unless you have like a really deep roster, like really deep. But I heard Jeremiah Bell could be used kind of more of like an H-back to some extent. So there's something about that you might want to keep your eyes on. But again, these were the only 3 tight ends drafted from round 5 to 7. So obviously, like we mentioned, the tight end class was kind of weak. A lot of people went in round 4, and then a few went after that. So the tight end grouping's not too strong in this class, but you could get some good, decent values in that round 4 range if you want to take shots at tight end. So, but that is going to wrap us up for tonight, guys. That is our tight end wide receiver breakdown review at the NFL draft reaction. ADP, if you want to talk, we did a lot of ADP. I did a lot of ADP talk tonight. Coach Ty did a lot of the analysts for me, so I love that. And I did a lot of the ADP because I'm in so many drafts right now, and it's insane. But I'm hoping, can't wait for it to be over, to be honest. I'm so tired of all these rookie drafts already. There's just too many, but I love it. Coach Ty, is there anything you want to say before we get going?
Yeah, go check out Dynasty Nerds. Use code COACH when signing up over there. Obviously, there's still rookie drafts that I have set up for the next week or 2 that haven't started yet. So that's even more time to grind some film in that film room, right? Yeah. And I use that Dynasty GM. I'm valuing picks out here for the next 2-3 years on how guys are going to do and how I can set myself up to get Jeremiah Smith in 2027. Oh, if you don't know the name, you better figure it out.
I don't.
But Ohio State receiver, he might be the best of all of them to come through.
I think I know 2 players.
But use that Dynasty GM. You have your contender mode in there who shows you values for this year and who has the best chance to make those runs. And then also they have the Dynasty mode to show you longevity and how players are valued in Dynasty as opposed to a year-to-year basis. So use that Dynasty GM, use that film room, brush up on your players, and get ready for your drafts.
Absolutely. And again, guys, thank you all for tuning in tonight, whether you're listening live on our YouTube channel at The Fantasy Coaches or if you're listening live on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, we definitely appreciate it. I got to post these more frequently on our Spotify because I consistently forget to do it. That's my fault, though. But they will both be posted tonight as soon as we get done with this podcast. But we thank you all for listening. We'll be back on Monday. We're doing a rookie mock draft, kind of showing more a visual thing on where these rookies are going to be going and where you should consider if you haven't done your rookie drafts yet, which a lot of people might not do it right away. People aren't degenerates like me. But it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a guest on the show. Coach Steve 2 will be back, and then we'll have some fun on Monday. So tune back in on Monday for a rookie mock draft. We thank you all for listening. Tune in until next time, everyone, and have a good one.
Back to back is not far-fetched. We got a couple of Clark hands. I've been feeling super